Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of my F1 29 career mode, the Singapore Grand Prix today. And as you can see, there is rain forecast for the race, so that could mix things up quite a bit. We'll see how that plays out when we get to it. No upgrades this weekend, so there's not much change on the R&D side of things, so let's get straight into qualifying and see what we can do.
It's time for us to settle down and the drivers below to get fired up. Once again, welcome to Singapore as we get ready for the green light and the start of what should be a fantastic qualifying session. It always looked like the kind of track that asks an awful lot of the rear tyres, such as the frequency of low-speed exits.
No matter how good a driver is at managing their throttle application to limit rear slip, they can't always overcome a car that's inherently bad at looking after its rear tyres. Here we have a lot of low-speed corner exits, which means a whole load of energy, heat and tyre wear.
Alright, so Q1, let's see if we can get a clean lap in, and it will give us a bit of a guideline of how fast we can expect to be. Singapore has never been one of my best tracks. I think particularly the last sector quite tricky, but this whole track, obviously it's, I guess it's a bit like Monaco, just a bit wider, which is nice. Monaco, for my liking, is a little bit too narrow, but anyway. As we head towards the final sector of the lap, the first sector of the lap was pretty clean, so we just trying to get this lap in very close to the wall there. I really have trouble with the line through this sort of bus stop section. I'm not sure really what to call it, but these final few corners as well, I seem to miss the apex there a bit, as I've just shown there. But we come across the line and we get through in P3, so despite a few mistakes, the pace is decent, and Sergio Perez is way down the order. I didn't actually show who was knocked out in that session, but there was a piece of front wing on the ground there, rich energy end plate, so there you go. But as we start our lap in Q2, I was a little bit worried about the pace still.
Just 30 seconds left in the session.
So just like in Q1, I left it right to the last minute to try to get the absolute best track conditions as we graze the wall a bit there, having to really push to the limits, because I actually think I may have cut a few corners in that Q1 lap, and while you can get away with it, I just don't really like doing it. So yeah, I'm trying to get this lap in cleanly, and a bit of a mistake there, that'll cost us some time as the session comes to an end, as you can see at the top of the screen there. But through the last two corners now, much more cleanly than the first time. Still miss the apex a bit, but can we get through to the next session? We can, but only in P10, so we have lost a lot of pace between Q1 and Q2. Obviously the AI could have sped up a little bit. I didn't actually look at times to see what they are relative to each other, but yeah, we are down in P10, which is much more closer to what I expected. And Max Verstappen is knocked out, so there's an unexpected one. But also knocked out is George Russell and Lando Norris and Danny Kvyat. So the qualifying result is they're all a bit mixed up. We got a Williams out of Q1, so good effort from George Russell. But Sergio Perez has been faster than me all weekend, and now he's been knocked out, as with Verstappen. So very, very weird qualifying there. But anyway, we will move on to Q3. We've already started the lap, and through turn 2, a big cut there because well, I didn't mean to be quite that aggressive over the inside curb, but we need to be aggressive on this lap if we want any chance to start near the front of the grid. I'm not confident with how good my pace will be around this track in the rain, so I want to be as far up the grid as possible and give us the biggest advantage we can possibly get in terms of track position at the start of the race, because I think that will be vital. I think everyone will be on the same strategy, so there won't be much to do on that side of things. It'll just be down to if we can defend our position. That's assuming we do not have the pace, but we'll see as we wind our way through that very tricky section in the middle sector. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't hit that outside wall a few times in practice. There we go. Let's stop talking in double negatives, that's confusing. But anyway, grazing the wall there a bit, but as we come around the final two corners, the best yet I would say, and across the line.
Okay, you're in the top 10.
We only sit in P7 at the moment, so we have a lot of making up to do. So we've gone for a second lap in Q2, but you can see the rain has started to come down, and I wasn't even expecting this. It was just as I come out of the pits and started this second lap in qualifying, there's spots on the screen.
Hulkenberg ahead. Their best lap time is a 1 minute 39.8.
And yeah, that was pretty much the end of that.
With qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves of our top three. Bottas, Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
So P7, it's not too bad, but I was expecting a bit more after the pace in Q1. But anyway, that's the way it goes. It could have been better if we got our second lap in, but the rain came down, ruined that chance. But Sergio Perez knocked out in Q2 is a bit of a surprise. He's been much faster than me all weekend, so I'm hoping he can work his way forwards throughout the race. But it's also it's a very mixed up grid. You've got one of the Haas cars well up the order, and Max Verstappen knocked out in Q2 as well, and Nico Hulkenberg struggling quite a lot. So it'll be a very weird race, so let's just see how it all plays out.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. Are you happy with where you'll be on the grid tomorrow?
Yeah, reasonably happy. I think we probably could have got a little bit more, but not getting the second lap in when the rain came made a big difference there, I think.
You left a lot of paint on the walls today. Were you struggling for grip, or did you just misjudge some corners?
Yeah, I've been having a little bit of trouble getting up to speed around this circuit, but we're getting there.
Well, thanks anyway.
Well, what do you expect me to say? Let's get into the race.
As the sun sets over the South China Sea, the sport that never sleeps is alert and raring to go. Welcome, under the bright lights of the Marina Bay Circuit, to another Singapore Grand Prix. It's a very long, very physical lap, this one, and really there's not much in the way of margin for error. So we have a bit of an endurance race for you tonight. We have a high risk of a safety car here today, as the abundance of tight corners mixed with these wet conditions could put a few cars off into the barriers. 23 turns then, 13 to the left and 10 to the right, make up the 3.1 mile lap of Marina Bay. And I'm joined once again by Anthony Davidson to bring you the lowdown for today's race. Can we begin by having a chat about Charles Leclerc? There's a new gearbox in the back of that car, which means a grid penalty, and hopefully some excitement as they make their way through the field.
Well, at the end of the day, it's always better to take some pain now than parking it up halfway through the Grand Prix. Let's just hope they can put that new gearbox to good use and get the results they're looking for.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, with Sebastian Vettel starting alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Hamilton, Hulkenberg, the scientist, and Leclerc. Weber, Raikkonen, Gasly and Max Verstappen, Perez, Russell, Daniel Kvyat and Butler. They've taken a grid penalty. Ricciardo, Giovinazzi, Alexander Albon and Robert Kubica, Magnussen and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
I will not let you down. So we've been elevated up into P5 thanks to a couple of grid penalties. So that'll immediately help us out in this race. But what I only just noticed now is it's set to a 50% race. And I was looking through all the settings, and there's no way to change it once you get to the track. Actually, as you can see, I quit the game to go back in, try to reload it and change it here, but it won't let me go to that setting. So we're stuck with a 50% race. I don't know when I changed it. I looked through all the footage from recording on all the loading screens, and I can't see anywhere where I changed it to a 50% race, but it happened at some point. And you can see here I'm trying again, backing out. I even tried to switch the profile to another one that I'm using, but that did nothing. I switched to it, switched back, and went back into the game, and still just it would not let me change it. So we're stuck with a 50% race, which kind of sucks, but if this was going to happen at any track, it would be this one, being one of the longest races.
8th place or better. Good luck.
8th place or better, okay. Being one of the longest races of the season and in the rain, if it was ever going to happen, this would be an ideal time, but it's still very annoying. And anyway, it's whatever. I can't do anything about it. I tried to.
Everything looks good on the power unit cycle, so let's concentrate on bringing tyres and brakes up to temperature.
Tried to fix it, couldn't fix it, so we're just stuck with it. Half distance race this time, so it's just going to be a bit of a shorter one, but we'll see if that affects how much action there is during the race. Hopefully we still get enough stuff happening in this race to make it interesting, but anyway, we'll see.
Keep an eye on the lights. The start sequence will begin as soon as the grid is formed. Be ready with the clutch.
Alright, here we go. 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the Singapore Grand Prix. And I can't even tell how good or bad the start is. There's so much spray. That's Hulkenberg to the inside. And we're trying to hold it round the outside to the inside of turn 2, round the outside of turn 3. Can we try and get round the outside of Hulkenberg? We've done it. And we've gained a position at the start of this race. We've got no visibility behind Lewis Hamilton. And I think that is Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel side by side for the lead. And I think Bottas has got that at the moment as Hulkenberg barges his way through. And we're sitting in the slipstream behind Hulkenberg. Can we make a move into the hairpin here? It's not really a hairpin, but into the end of this straight, round the outside of Hulkenberg. And we get that position and hold it to the inside to cover it off and
That's a strong start. Well done.
maintain P4 in this race. So we've gained a spot off the start from Hulkenberg, and we can just try to defend this. The leaders have gotten away already, the top 3, so it could be a difficult ask to try to catch them, but you never know. We've had pace when we don't expect it before, so we'll see how it goes. But we've survived the first opening sectors of this race, and that is potentially what will be the hardest part. But as we go on, my goal is just to try to drive as smoothly and consistently as possible, and I think that will be the fastest strategy to the end for us. We'll just be not pushing too much, just trying to keep the front wing on the car. You can see I'm a little bit offline there, and those are the things I'm trying to avoid at this point. It's just the little mistakes that cost time, and very, very easy to make in the rain. There's a lot of understeer, a lot of wheel spin to deal with, so we just need to drive smoothly and cautiously and hope that the natural pace of this car is enough to keep us ahead of the cars behind. But you can see already that
You're in the top 10 now. Keep it up.
the cars ahead are getting away already. so I don't think we'll be winning this race, but I think that we should have enough pace to try to hold on to the position we're in. It'll get very interesting.
Power from the engine is going to be down slightly and showing some minor wear.
And just to add to our issues,
Safety car, no overtaking, reduce your pace.
safety
Keep your
car.
delta number positive as we form up. Okay, slow down. Your delta is negative, which means you are too fast.
And that is for Alexander Albon, a mechanical failure. That was very close to another car there. But Alex Albon retires from this race. But to finish my point from a second ago, I forgot to change the engine to a brand new one, so we've still got an old practice one in the car. So that kind of sucks. We're going to be lacking a lot of pace on the straights. But it is a rainy race, so again, if I was going to make that mistake, this race is the ideal one. But a couple of laps later, the safety car leads the way and accelerates away from the field, and we are left to try to gain a position on the safety car restart if we can. But that is a very difficult thing to do, and look at the spray. I literally can barely see where to go. Even with the
dropping back by about 0.3 a lap.
even with the corners of the driving line turned on. But anyway, almost understeering into the wall there, and having a few slides.
Some wear on the ICE. Be aware that we will start to see a loss of power.
And I just couldn't get into a rhythm around the Singapore circuit, and I was never able to make any ground really on the cars ahead. And to be honest, that's not really what I was expecting, but it would have been nice to have the pace, but they were just miles too fast. But you can see here just making a lot of mistakes. This one here doesn't look like much, but we'll go for an onboard from the following car of Hulkenberg, and you can see we left the door wide open, and we actually got a pretty decent exit out of that corner, which is what I was aiming for, but it did look a little bit ordinary. But this is a battle up ahead for the race lead. Sebastian Vettel is putting a lot of pressure on Valtteri Bottas, so that'll be interesting to see if he can make any moves there. But as for us, we move all the way along to the pit window because there was nothing happening throughout that entire time. We get a new set of tyres on. Out of pit lane, 2.2 second stop, so decent. Decent enough, but I'm still waiting for that sub 2 second pit stop by the Racing Point boys. So hopefully they can give that pit stop to me at some point by the end of the season. But I'm not seeing how possible that is at the moment. But anyway, as we go for our outlap, we need to make this one really count because we were holding up the train. So we need to be very quick on the outlap if we want to come out in front of it. And we've got Charles Leclerc side by side with us as Leclerc exits pit lane. We're around the outside, and Leclerc actually gives us a bump as we're squeezing into the apex of the left-hander there. And we're side by side. We bump him back on the entrance to the next corner, and we lead him through and take fourth position back as we head on to the straight. But Leclerc's got other ideas. He's going to go to the inside through the little kink on the straight. We're side by side heading into the left-hander down the inside of Leclerc, and we're going to hold him off and maintain P4. And that is the close we've gotten to potentially losing it throughout this race.
Bottas is up in first place.
While Bottas maintains the lead through the pit stop phases, so Vettel unable to do an undercut, overcut, anything like that.
Light to rain transition into heavy within 15 minutes time. Gap to teammate behind is 6.4 seconds.
But now we've got heavy rain on the radar, so we may need to switch to the blue wall tyres at some point, but we'll see if that eventuates. But Leclerc comes back at us as we head towards the left-hander at the end of the straight once again, side by side, and we're going to hold it to the inside, round the outside of the next corner if we have to, but thankfully we managed to get clear and
Bottas is out in front.
stay ahead. Oh, not this again.
Bottas is out in front. 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 Bottas is out in front.
So now we move on to the last few laps of the race. You can see Leclerc trying again round the outside into the middle sector. We squeeze him all the way out towards the wall and manage to hold on to the position for a final time in this race. But here is Valtteri Bottas rounding the final 2 corners, and he crosses the line to win the Singapore Grand Prix. It has been a brilliant race by the Finn, and it is a well-deserved victory. He has absolutely dominated. Sebastian Vettel P2, Lewis Hamilton P3 in this race. Solid points for both of them. Meanwhile, we are coming around the final corner when we've run out of fuel. Charles Leclerc's got to run, but we're just going to be able to block him off and cross the line for P4.
Okay, good job, mate. Really well done. That was a fantastic drive.
Whew, that was a bit of last-minute excitement there.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Rain always has the potential to liven up a race and mix up the order, and they've taken full advantage of that to claim the victory today. It's always a bit of a lottery when the conditions are like this, but they've managed to stay on circuit and have come out on top.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So, an absolutely dominant race by Valtteri Bottas, and that will bring him right back into the championship fight. It looked like for a while Hamilton was going to stretch away, but Bottas is bringing it back in the Singapore Grand Prix.
And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. It wasn't the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top has been reduced. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
Daniel Ricciardo certainly impressed me today, an incredible performance.
Let's move on to the constructors. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Great work out there today. Let's have your thoughts.
You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sketchy race really, but somehow we managed to hold on to the position we were in. Obviously overtaking was a very difficult thing to do, and we held on.
How did your team respond to the poor conditions today?
Yeah, I think the could have been better, but we held on to a good position, so that's all that counts.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Claire. So, the end of another weekend. Have a look at those things there. For some reason, compared to Devin Butler, we got a podium, but compared to Sergio Perez, we didn't. So, there you go. That's an interesting one. But anyway, you can see that. We didn't get a podium. We finished 4th, but apparently we did, according to Devon. So I'm not sure how that works, but that's a thing. But we'll get some resource points after this round. Not a whole heap. We don't have the objective this time round, but still 1,700 to spend. So quite a few really.
Excellent result today. Finishes like that will look good on your contract reviews. On to the next one.
So we'll see what we can upgrade with that in just a moment. But yeah, overall I'm okay with that race. I suppose it's the finishing position was a lot better than where our pace was, but I mean, you might have noticed in some of the replay cameras that I showed throughout the race, we were just holding up a massive queue of cars and they just couldn't overtake. So If it wasn't for a good start and the grid penalties, we probably would have been towards the back end of the top 10. But thankfully we're able to hold on to the position where we started, as we're just checking out what our mates Devon and Lucas have to say. But yeah, it was an okay race, and we'll just move on to the next one and hope for a bit more pace. But I cannot complain about a P4. That is absolutely insane when you think about it. Anyway, as for the upgrades, we're going to do a major weight reduction upgrade on the chassis side. That has been a bit of a bottleneck. I've been avoiding it being a major upgrade. It takes a bit longer, so I've been doing the minor upgrades just because we get the performance on the car faster. But I'm going for the major, get it out the way, and we can unlock some more upgrades further along the tree to hopefully better our car for the next season, really. But as for the rest of the points, we're going to apply a minor tyre wear upgrade for the Russian Grand Prix next. So we'll have a little bit of improvement there, but the tyre wear is not so bad in Russia anyway, so I'm not sure how much of a difference that will actually make, but every little bit counts. And on the aero side, we also have enough points left for a major front downforce upgrade, so we'll have a minor coming in for Russia and 2 major upgrades coming in for Japan. So Japan is looking like a very good round for us, but you can never look too far ahead. We'll just see what the other teams do in terms of upgrades by then. But anyway, the next episode is Russia. I hope to see you then. Hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye.